For this, I have to give credit to WDW Pro. He dropped an excellent video earlier today. Everyone, go check that out. I will put a highlight or a related story to it on screen because he referenced a story from both Fox and Puck Magazine by Matthew Boloney, the former editor of the Hollywood Reporter. So he is someone who does know his industry, let's put it that way. And that part of the story is behind a paywall. But for illustration, let's get into this story from Fox. Disney's potential ABC sale could have major ramifications for network's news division and high-paid anchors. And the high-paid anchor in specific that's mentioned here is ABC's George Stephanopoulos, not someone I am personally familiar with, but apparently he is paid more than what he is worth by a wide margin, which opens the question, why is he paid so immensely much, so much more than he's worth? Well, according to Matthew Boloney over at Puck Magazine, as per WDW Pro, that would be because the guy you see pictured right here, George Stephanopoulos, he is paid not just because he's this fantastic news anchor, but for his connections, because he started out in the press division of the Clinton administration.
He was the press guy. He was the spokesperson,
the press secretary.
Yeah, he was the press. Yeah. I remember him.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. And apparently, because of that, he still has connections to all of the later White Houses. And so Bob Iger, and this is the accusation, overpaid him specifically so that not Disney, but that he, Bob Iger, would have a direct line and access and personal relations to the Obamas and the Bidens, and the Obama White House and the Biden White House, presumably in order to further his future run as a presidential candidate himself, is the accusation. Now, all of this, of course, has been paid for by Disney Dime. Now, how much has Disney, the corporation, benefited from these close relations to the Democrat Party? That, of course, is something that can be debated. Let's put it that way.
There's a one common thread I'm seeing here, Andre, and Mike, I think, will get a kick out of this one. Bob overpays for everything.
Yep.
Like, if he saw a car on the street that said $500 on the price tag, he'd be like, how do I pay you $7 for it?
Yep. And I've commented this before, that if I were to come up, if someone were to ask me, describe Bob Iger's personality as CEO, which I've done on Midnight Sedge After Dark many a time, what do I say, Tom? He's like, what kind of person? He's like that kind of
drunken wife on a shopping spree with a credit card with no limits, basically.
Yes, an Amex black card. It's your wife who's goes to one too many wine bars and wine socials and wine and champagne brunches and has your Amex black card, and somehow magically finds herself always buying bags at the local VIP high-end mall.
Pretty much. And not only that, it's all stuff she could get at, any regular store for half that price, basically.
Or an outlet.
Yeah, because I mean,
or better yet, buy it and actually use it versus buying something all shiny new and then sticking it in the closet where it just sits there and collects mothballs. Like, I don't know, fill in the blanks. I don't know, the Muppets. I mean, what else does Disney buy? Fox that doesn't do shit with.
Well, I mean,
the list.
Look
goes
at it
on.
this way: you kind of can argue that they overpaid for Pixar in a way because they don't have Lasseter anymore, right?
Yeah,
like
wasn't most of the value Lasseter in buying that deal?
Yes.
I mean, seriously, wasn't it? Or am I smoking crack?
No, you're 100% right.
Absolutely. I mean, that was the whole point. It wasn't
Marvel?
so much Pixar, the company and its resources. It was Lasseter, because Lasseter could then continue to do what he already had the track record of doing, And he could do the same thing for Disney Animation. So really, when he talks about buying Pixar in his book Ride for Lifetime, because he describes it there, when you read it really carefully, the value is actually in John Lasseter.
I think he actually said something to that effect, but I could be wrong because I'm trying to remember when the book came out in comparison to when Lasseter was exited, and I think they actually talk about his exit in the book, so you could be right, Andre.
They do. And
yes.
It's funny because...
But basically, that's the whole idea, is that he was paying for Lasseter, not Pixar.
And to me, I don't get it at all, because in that section of the book where he talks about acquiring Pixar, he could not shut up about the importance of John Lasseter to Pixar. Whereas when he got to that later chapter where he fired Lasseter for no good reason at all, by then he seems to have forgotten that he wrote earlier how important Lasseter was. By that time, he was just another employee, and now it's important that you do the right thing as a good boss. It's like, did you not write this earlier thing? Or did the ghost writer neglect to show you this? Because or did you use two different ghost writers? Because it's a major flip-flop, because you just went from paying $4 billion for this guy into, well, he's just another employee that needed firing.
And I'll tell you what.
The understanding that Bob fails to understand, and this is because he just doesn't understand it. That's why my analogy, I use it over and over again. Tom, when you're wine drinking, champagne brunch going gal with your Amex Black Card, and the reason I say Amex Black Card is Amex Black Cards don't have a credit limit. The idea is that you buy now and pay off later. That's how they work.
Well, like that, wife, I was just getting started, but please continue, Mike.
Well, I was going to say, like, it's buy now, pay later, but you don't really have a credit limit. You just keep buying, and it's hubby's job to figure out how to pay for it in time. And in this case, hubby is the board and the investors, institutional and otherwise. What Bob doesn't understand is that when you keep buying these things, when you keep overpaying for these things, you're not able to issue dividends. You're not able to issue. I mean, if it wasn't for the parks that are fueling enough cash flow to provide enough working capital to qualify for some of this money that he keeps borrowing, this company would have gone out of business a long time ago. And the reason why that when they announce that they're going to spend $60 billion in most places around the world and divide it up, and it doesn't actually end up being that much money if you do the math and divide it up. I mean, because frankly, every time they say they're going to spend money and reinvest in the company, they never do, at least not to what the announcement says. So if you actually do the math, all he's doing is saying that he's going to further debt load this company, further weigh it down, cash flow will not be available, and more importantly, his dividends will not show up, which is a problem, which is I think the market came back and says, wait a minute, we're supposed to get a dividend by the end of this calendar year. The clock's ticking. We're in October already, almost.
Oh, there's not going to be any dividend. Are you crazy?
And so he's trying to change the conversation and kick this ball down the road. All this mother effer knows how to do is spend money and borrow money and not actually make money. He is the worst CEO I have ever seen for a large company since I've been studying this crap, which has been well in excess of 2, almost 3 decades.
So I have a question. Did he take Disney farther and better after Eisner left?
No, and in fact, I was going to continue that point, because after the Pixar thing was the only thing that he did that you could argue was a good idea, because at that point, Eisner and John Lasseter had, and Jobs more so, yes.
They weren't getting along.
They had their out. Yeah, had their out, and basically Lasseter was done with them because they said, we're going to make sequels to these movies with or without you. And they said without you, because they ended up setting up a whole new animation division just to handle the Pixar sequels, just to piss Lasseter off. That was what Eisner did. So not only did Bob have to try and, basically buy Pixar and get him to stay at a permanent home at Disney, he had to sweeten the pot just to make things nice between Lasseter, because he had been treated like shit by Eisner, like dog shit. So that was his only real good thing he did. But at the same time, it was all for nothing, because all he did was stretch Lasseter thin, and the only good thing they really got out of that was probably Frozen and maybe Tangled and Wreck-It Ralph. Because in Wreck-It Ralph, most people are confused as a Pixar movie because it feels and acts just like a Pixar movie, because Lasseter was basically doing everything, Pixar and Disney animation. And then as soon as he was gone, you could see the quality just went. And then you have the other part where he spent whatever it was on Marvel, 12 million, I think it was.
No,
Or no.
Marvel was bought for exactly 4 billion.
4 billion. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
4 billion. And he spent 4 billion on that, which at the time, good investment. But what he did do is he turned around and got rid of the guy who was watching the checks and balances. So these movies, and I'm going to say this with all sincerity, the Marvel movies ruined Hollywood. The way Scream movies ruined horror movies. They made every movie have to cost $250 million to be this big overbloated spectacle thing.
Yeah.
And he single-handedly caused that because he took away Ike Perlmutter, who was saying, no, you're not going to spend more than $80 million on this fucking movie. Sorry.
And can I add?
Please.
Shredding killed rock and roll. If I can add that.
Well, actually, I see where you're going with it, and I don't disagree. Actually, I do agree. I can't stand songs with shredding.
No, but yeah, it's the same kind of
It
concept.
became all Uwe, what's his name? So,
and I love Marvel, and I have my feelings about Scream too, but I will not deny the fact that Scream killed horror movie, just like you're talking about with the guitar thing, and same thing here with Marvel killing the industry as a whole. Not just superhero movies, but industry as a whole. Then you add in Star Wars. That was the big snafu, okay? Because that thing has done nothing but cost them money since day fucking one, because he's done nothing but handle it horribly. First of all, you got rid of George when he was under the assumption that you guys were just going to be paying for this shit, benefiting from the shit, but using him as a source.
Well, they thought they thought they had it working with the first movie because that was hugely successful, but they didn't understand why it was successful.
No, and that was at the expense of George's treatments and his EU and all that business. And at that point and moment is when they just threw everything they just paid $4.05 billion for out the window. And then let's get to the big one, 20th Century Fox. Because at the time we all joked about, oh, there's no way he's just going to buy it just to get the rights to the Fantastic Four and X-Men back. Well, evidently he just bought it just to get the rights to the Fantastic Four and X-Men back because they ain't done jack shit otherwise outside of Predator.
Which, by the way, you could have you could have gotten those rights a whole other way and just paid for the use of those rights.
And I think Prey was already something that was in the pipeline before he bought the company.
Oh, it was totally.
That's what I'm saying. 90% of the shit they've released from Fox is stuff that was already on the way, in the works, on the shelf. The only newer one they got coming out here is this, the one we were talking about yesterday on Mr. H's channel, but it's going straight to Hulu. It's a horror movie. I can't remember what it's called. It's like You Can't Hide From Them or something like that. It's like a alien invasion movie in a like isolated kind of Hitchcockian kind of feel to it. But no, like it's like they've even had the flops like the Venice movie. Every movie they've released outside of what New Guy or Free Guy or whatever the hell it's called, the Ryan Reynolds one, has basically tanked, and that didn't even do that well. And they ended up selling Sound of Freedom, which if they would have released that on their own, I'm not saying it would have done as well as it would have, but still, it's just another kick to the pants for them, if you ask me. Because Bob has done, and you're right, Mike, it's worse than just a drunken sailor. It's like he walks up, and like I said, if the car says $500, he will find a way to haggle that salesman to pay a hell of a lot more than $5 for some dumb reason that only makes sense to him.
And more importantly is that if he's only got the money and the credit score for a Honda Accord, why is he out buying Audis? Or better example, he's used to buying Audis and he has to like go and get Ferraris and shit and pay Ferrari prices for Audi cars. I
still think what's ruined everybody is the extended credit that ESG has given these studios.
In the false sense of having the money on hand. Exactly.
That's my point. It's like that's their credit card. That is the bridge financing has never been more liquid, and it's been their undoing. They should have just, like any good household, you pretend that does not exist, but that's not what many of these studios and businesses have been using it for. They figured that, wow, this is unlimited cash. I'm going out with my corporate credit card and then blowing this all.
And then there's the point of the whole Florida situation, and Bob can juggle that and kind of try and play it off any way he can, but he cannot hide the fact that he was all for going in nose first on that shit.
Yep.
Because he even took to the public and said something about it. And like, that's the thing, is you had all these important people at Disney piling on Chapek all at the same time. That is not a good look for your fucking company. right?
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There, you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey, and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe, and join us.